Welcome to another adventure with the Investor Guys podcast. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing excellent, brother. And since I'm not there with you in person, I thought I would at least be there with you virtually.
Channel it with me. It looks awesome. So I am in downtown Palm Beach Gardens today. It's right around the corner from my daughter's school. There's condos behind me. There's actually a hotel over there. And then right across the street, there's the mall. Well, the downtown gardens, and then beyond those buildings behind me is the mall. But fun little place to hang out, get some work done. Sometimes I come here. Sometimes I go to the park. Sometimes I actually sit in the car in the air conditioning because it's just too much to bear. But found a nice shady spot under a young banyan tree, and perfect place to hang out with you for a little while and talk investment strategies.
There you go.
And it's funny because we always talk about, the market's changing. It's literally always changing. It is always going one direction or another. And a lot of people are panicking right now because we have this huge inflation. I mean, we went and we bought meatballs. We buy meatballs every week from Sam's Club. And when we started buying them a couple of years ago, they were $9.99 for the bag of meatballs. And that was 2 years ago, maybe. We bought them this weekend, and it was $18.99 for the same bag of meatballs in 2 years. So if you don't go shopping, maybe you don't see inflation. But if you're buying gas, if you're buying groceries, if you're buying a new car, if you're buying anything, you are seeing and suffering from inflation. That is an insane amount of markup that we are dealing with with everything, just a couple of years.
New cars, man, if you look at used cars, they're insane how much they've gone up. I was laughing. When I need a good laugh, I always jump on YouTube and just go search Biden. And it showed him from a week ago. He was doing a press conference, and he was like, how great a job they were doing on inflation and driving prices down. When I came into office, gas was over $5, and we've gotten it down to the national average now is $3.35, and we're like, no, time out, Uncle Goofball. When you came in, it was $2.35. You took it to $5. You're still $1 higher than it was when you came in per gallon. That's almost 50% increase. It's like 43% increase in gas from when you took office. So the guy, I have to laugh because the guy cannot open his mouth and not lie. He cannot do it. He is a lying machine from top to bottom, inside out. If you voted for him, shame on you. If you're voting for him again, you're stupid ass motherfucker. That's what you are. So now that we've got my political point of view out of the way today, let's talk investment strategy.
Yeah, and again, it's always moving. It's going to be moving in one direction or another. Right now, we're looking at higher interest rates. We are already seeing people shying away from buying properties. Okay, yep. We're already seeing the days on market stretching out. We're already seeing prices coming down. We're seeing those things, and as real estate investors, we start panicking. But the only reason you would have to worry about that is if you're planning on selling something right now. And if you're a real estate investor, you shouldn't be worried about selling something right now that you're going to lose money on. The only reason you're going to lose money on is if you just bought it in the last couple of years, in which case, hang on to it. There are so many different strategies that you can use in this different market. So what Bill wanted to talk about, this is Bill's idea, is our favorite strategies for this particular market. And when it's my turn, I'm going to tell you guys what I've done in the past, because totally different situation, but same type of a panic situation that we were dealing with back in 2007, 2008. And I'll tell you guys what I did, and we've talked about it before, but I loved it, and I'm already starting to do it, and I'm getting some nibbles, and I know that I'll be getting some nice bites here in the next few months to come, especially if we start getting towards the end of the summer. But Bill, I'm going to kick it off to you. Go ahead and start sharing your favorite strategy for this current market right now.
So let's split it, and you and I both do our favorite buying strategies for the market conditions. And then second half of the show, we'll do our favorite selling strategies. You mentioned 07 and 08. What does 07 and 08 have in common with today? Oh, yeah. Biden and Obama, and we all know Obama's really running the government. Biden can't run to the bathroom, much less run the government. But anyway, my favorite purchase strategy right now, and will be this for the foreseeable future, meaning the next 3, 5, maybe 6 years before the market catches its breath and turns around again, is buying subject to. Subject to is simply the ability to start servicing existing debt on the property. We're not assuming that debt, we're servicing that. You know, assumption pretty much died with the 86 Tax Reform Act, where the banks and the mortgage companies came in and were a major part of the Tax Reform Act. And in doing that, they really created what's referred to as the due on sale clause. The due on sale clause says that there's a change of ownership, then the bank or the mortgage company can call the note due if the note's not paid off with that change. They can call it due. But one of the other things that changed in that, or how that also affects the assumption clause, was the assumption clause were changed, and they only added 2 words. And those 2 words completely revolutionized and changed, in a non-positive way, in my opinion, the assumptive clause. All mortgages still have an assumption clause in them, but it says with approval. Well, if you got to approve me to do the assumption, what am I getting? I'm getting nothing. I might as well go out and just go get the mortgage myself, which is what they want you to do. Subject to is a strategy, and now let's lay something out very clearly on the front end. Subject to is not against the law. The due on sale clause is not a law. It is a policy, a corporate policy, a corporate procedure. It's not a law. The due on sale clause, there isn't any due on sale jail out there somewhere. They're going to throw you in. You buy a piece of property and you break the due on sale clause. Now,
The contractual agreement.
Yeah, it's a contractual agreement. And with breaking that, if they wanted to, they could accelerate the note. Here's the thing that makes buying subject to so beautiful. If in fact that were to happen and you were notified and the seller was notified that they were accelerating the note, and it would be the seller typically being notified that they're accelerating the note because of violation of the due on sale clause, this contractual agreement in the mortgage, they have to foreclose on the property. Well, foreclosure nowhere, at least not yet anyway, nowhere in this country is instantaneous. Texas has some of the most aggressive foreclosure laws in the country. When you hear people talk about Texas, they'll say, oh, you can foreclose on a property in 21 days in Texas. So yeah, that's actually a true statement to a degree. There's a lot of missing information in that 21-day time frame. It is 21 days once the attorneys, or you, if you venture out dangerously to try to do that yourself, once all of the appropriate notifications are delivered. The first notification is simply a 30-day notice of, hey, this is a demand notice. You've got 30 days to get your note paid off, or we're going to start foreclosure proceedings. So you got 30 days right there. Then as they start the proceedings, you end up having about a total of about 90 days before the 21 days kicks in. So you got 3-4 months easy, even here, considered to be the most aggressive state in the country on foreclosure. Even here. And what am I doing during that time frame if I were to be accelerated? I'm simply going to go out and put additional funding options together to be able to pay that off and not lose the property and not lose any of the money that I've invested in the property so far. So I can do that through private money. I can do that through retirement accounts. I may get a hard money loan. I may be able to go traditional. There's a lot of different ways to be able to do that. But that ability to buy subject to, where I can simply come in and say, you know what, I'm going to service this debt. Now we'll get more into that. We're up on a break here. We'll get more into that when we come back. Hang around for more Investor Guys podcast.
See you in a minute.
You are watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly.
Absolution X, limited editions, lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
You are watching the Investor Guys podcast.
The Investor Guys podcast will be back shortly.
And we are back, and the break so rudely interrupted Bill there. So Bill, I'll let you jump back into it. Subject to, and here's the thing too. You're talking about 21 days. 21 days, people, that is still 3 weeks. There's a lot you can accomplish in 3 weeks. And that is once you have a judgment. Texas is still a judgment state. That means you have to have a judgment in order to move forward with actually taking somebody out of the property that they previously owned. The bank is going to be taking back. So you have plenty of time, even in that scenario. And as Bill said, Texas is one of the most aggressive. If you go to a state like California or New York, these people could be living in your house. Well, your house, I say your house because this is something that we have to deal with as investors also. They could be living in the house for years going through the foreclosure process before they actually end up losing that property. Bill, toss it back to you.
Yeah. So when I'm buying subject to, I want to go in and talk to the seller, and they're going to be getting close on being foreclosed on. So they have an option. I can have to go back to the bank. Now, they've likely been trying to sell it. I certainly hope they have. They may have been able to discount pricing enough that it got somebody really interested, and they said, hey, we're only going to do a cash only offer. Or many times you can have the trustee attorney that is foreclosing on the property representing the bank or the mortgage company. You can have them pull the property from this foreclosure proceedings and delay it 30 days if you have a contract that they deem to be a valid contract and you're not just playing some game. But I want to go in and talk to the seller, and if they decide to work with us, because what I want to tell them is, look, you're about to get foreclosed on. If you don't get it saved, you're going to get foreclosed on. Foreclosure is the single worst item that can end up on your credit report. Foreclosure is significantly more damaging to your credit than bankruptcy. When you file bankruptcy, you can get a home loan in a blink of an eye after filing bankruptcy, because the prospective lenders understand you can't file again for 7 years. The average American owns their home somewhere between 3 and 5 years, depending on what study you're reading. But I haven't seen anybody saying longer than 5, and that's as a national average. So they look at it, they being the underwriters, look at it and go, wow, this guy filed bankruptcy 6 months ago. I'm going to go ahead and approve this, and I'm going to approve it at a real high rate, because I'm going to be able to say, hey, you just filed bankruptcy. I can't trust you, so we're going to give you a high rate. And I know that they can't do anything for another 6.5 years. And so we got plenty of time to either take the property back or to have them build equity along the time before we take it back, if they were to fall apart. So they get very aggressive on being able to work with people who have recently filed bankruptcy. Foreclosure, whole different game. Foreclosure is, hey, you know what? Yeah, you didn't take care of your home. Now, If you file bankruptcy and foreclosure is a part of that, you're okay. But if you simply get foreclosed on and you don't go bankrupt, you got major issues. So we explain that to a prospective seller so that they understand here's how things may look for them going forward. How can we help them? Well, we can, first of all, catch up your debt so that you are current on your payments. Is that going to help your credit? Significantly. But look, don't you, as the investor, ever give them money before they are out of the property. Not only that, you never give the money to them directly. You give the money to the trustee attorney, not to them hoping they'll pay it, because they may not. And you also cannot allow them either to stay or come back into the property. Can't allow that. No matter what they say, look, they weren't afraid of the bank. They may have been with JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the country, and they're still getting foreclosed on, which means that all the threatening letters and phone calls that Chase made to them, they went, yeah, well, so what? And maybe not, that was a position where they could not do anything any differently. But you can't allow them to stay, because if they weren't afraid of the bank or the mortgage company, they're certainly not going to be afraid of you. So you want to go in, make sure they're out of the property. You pay the money directly to you pay the money directly to the bank or the mortgage company, never to the seller. If you are giving the seller some form of equity, then that is separate from what it takes to catch their property up. But you have to have them out of the property. Then you can turn around and say, okay, now I have possession of the property. I'm caught up the mortgage, and I'm going to make the payments going forward. We have the right, and when we write our contract, we have the right to be able to say, you know what, I can put a tenant in this house if I want to. I can turn around and start finance this house if I want to. However, whatever I want to do, you could live in it if you wanted to. Whatever I want to do, I have the right to do for a certain period of time. I usually negotiate a 3 to 5 year time period when I'm purchasing a property subject to. So I let them understand I have the right to exercise paying them out no sooner than 3 years, but no longer than 5 years. And if I violate that, then they have the right to foreclose on me. I also tell them, hey, look, if you're worried about whether I'm going to make payments or not, we will sign an agreement separate to the contract. Now, it has to be separate to the contract because it may be considered not negotiating in good faith on the contract if it's part of the contract. But what this separate agreement, and it's one page, what that separate agreement will say is that if I'm ever late on a payment, I'll sign the property back over to you. Whatever we've paid, gone. We don't get a chance to get that back if that happens. So I'll let them know this is how serious we are about this. We don't play games. We don't play around. This is what we do as our general business. This is what we do for a living. This is how I feed my kids. So we take this very seriously. We're going to help you rebuild your credit, and we're really going to save a ton of it. Get your credit rebuilt. Get this debt off of your hands. And in the meantime, we're going to make some excellent money on it.
And acquire a property, possibly put into your portfolio.
Yep. Okay, we're back up on
break.
Back, and we'll talk about selling these things. And well, we'll come back when we'll let Cap talk. Sorry, I've hogged the first
No worries.
2 seconds.
Might have to talk about sales on our next show. Back in a minute.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
Absolution X. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Limited editions. Unique, exclusive designs. Seek your absolution. Get yours. Only at absolutionx.com.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
And we are back. And we're going to do your strategy, my strategy. My strategy is pretty similar to yours, but I want to say first off, okay, and you're in the same boat, I already know. I'm going to speak for you. Bill and I love doing single or multifamily properties. And there are markets that I've been investing in for over 30 years that I'm actually seeing these properties come back down a little bit in price, and they're going to continue to do so.
Yep.
Even though I love a subject to strategy and I have a different twist on it, but it's the same thing. Even though I like that strategy, I will continue to buy these multifamily properties, and I will continue to pay the higher interest rates that I have to pay, because sometimes I'll even buy them on hard money loans because there is enough profit in there when all is said and done that it makes it worthwhile for me to have these properties. So while the market price is coming down, I will continue to buy these properties because it's a good deal. Because guess what? The prices are coming down, but the rents aren't coming down. The rents are still the same and the rents are still going up. So I will continue to buy those properties. And when the market changes and interest rates go down, I will consider then refinancing the loan, maybe taking some money out at the same time and putting it towards another investment. But right now, I will continue with that strategy. One of the things that I liked about 2007, 2008 were the opportunities for subject to. And I picked up a lot of properties on subject to. Now, I'm going to switch gears just a tiny bit. Bill knows I'm writing my book right now on multifamily properties. And I have a section on financing. And in the financing section, I point out that one of my favorite ways to finance a property, and once you're a real estate investor, this is going to be one of your favorites. I know it's one of Bill's also. It's called seller financing. Okay. And that is where the seller of the property is willing to carry the note on the property. And we can do this with a subject to strategy as well. And what I will do is I will use whatever situation is going on with that particular property owner to figure out what's going to best fit their scenario. Sometimes it is me working out something on a subject to where I'm able to take over their note, exactly what Bill said, and they are in a sense financing that for me because I am now paying on their note. Okay. Or maybe they have enough equity in the property and they want to get out of the property, but they don't have that clock ticking that Bill was talking about, but they want to get out of the property. And I can now, especially with interest rates the way they are now, I can pay that seller payments that are pretty much going to cover their payments, maybe give them a little bit of extra in their pocket. Now, their payments, if they bought this property 15, 20 years ago, their payments are going to be way less than if I purchased this property at market value. Now, I'm not going to make payments to them for 30 years, and they don't want me to make payments to them for 30 years, okay? I'm going to pay them for 5 years, 7 years, maybe 10 years if I'm lucky, okay? And that's going to put enough equity into the property that I'm going to be able to turn around, take that deal to the bank, and the bank is going to say, hey, no problem, you've got enough equity, no money down, and I'm able to finance that property in my own name. That's strategy number one that I use for subject to. And again, if they have a loan, it has to be a subject to deal because it's subject to me taking possession of that property and the underlying mortgage still staying in place. The other thing that I did in 2007, 2008, even as early as 2006, and I loved the strategy and I'm starting to do it again. There are people who have properties who know that they're going to lose their property. They don't want to deal with it. They just want to be done with it. And you would be surprised how many of these people are uneducated, uninformed investors. And I feel for them, but I don't want to be mean. It's stupid tax. If you don't learn how to do what you're supposed to be doing, If you don't learn how to swim and you jump in a pool or you jump in an ocean, you have to understand there's a good chance that you're going to drown. Okay. And that's how I look at it. These people are drowning. I will go out there, I will throw them a rope, and they can take the rope and I'll pull them back ashore and they won't be drowning anymore. Or they can stay out there and they can drown, and they will, because they didn't learn how to swim. They did not learn how to be an educated investor. So a lot of these properties I will pick up from uneducated investors, and I will tell them simply this: I will take over your property right now. Whatever, sometimes they're not even in arrears. Sometimes they are in arrears. I will take over your property. Sometimes they already have tenants in them. Okay. Take over your property right now. I will make the payments. Okay. When I sell this property in 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, or I refinance this property in 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years, I will give you X percentage of my profit. That's X percentage minus what I paid, minus what the mortgage is, minus everything that went into the property, whatever is left. And there's going to be a profit, because I'm not doing this for no profit. Okay. There's going to be a profit. I'm going to take you out of this pool. I'm going to go and I'm going to tread water for you, because I know how to do it. Okay. When I'm ready to get out of this pool, whatever award it is that I get for treading water for that 5, 7, 10 years. Okay. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to give you a percentage of it. You're going to get 20%. You're going to get 30%. You're going to get 40% if the deal is good enough, whatever it is. Okay. I'm going to share that with them. They have all the motivation in the world now to let somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who knows how to play the game, come in, take this responsibility off of their shoulders, and they will be your biggest cheerleader. If you need them to contact the bank or you need them to do anything, you call them and you let them know. They're seeing that the note's getting paid. They're seeing that the insurance is getting paid. You're going to let them know that you have a tenant in there, whatever the situation is. They're not going to contact the tenant, but you're going to let them know. They're essentially your 20%, 30%, 40% partner in all of this, but they put down the lion's share of the money, because they put down all of the money for the down payment. They put down whatever payments they were making on this property. They've been paying the insurance. They've been paying whatever it is for the last 2, 3, 5, however many years they've been in it. They are your partner, and I'll treat them like that. I'm not going to invite them to lunch all the time or anything else, but I will let them know what's going on with their property that still has their mortgage on it. It's not in their name anymore. I put it into a trust, but it still has their mortgage. Their name is still on that mortgage. And the other thing that they're doing is they're looking at their account and they're seeing this is getting paid. This is getting paid. I'm not having to worry about how I'm going to pay this note. It's getting paid and it looks good on my credit. If they want to go and they want to buy another property, if for whatever reason they want to do that, I'll explain to them, take this information to the bank and explain that this is an income producing property for you. And you will get a better loan because you have this much additional income coming in on this property than if it was just sitting vacant or if it was just foreclosed on, which is what would likely happen if you did not bring me into this scenario. So I used to run ads on Craigslist for this, and Craigslist used to be a different place. It's not that place anymore. I do these now on Facebook. I will actually do Facebook ads that say, do you need help? You need to get out of your house? Do you have a property that you're not going to be able to pay for? I'll run Facebook ads. I will do Facebook posts, and I will boost those posts so that they go out to people in the markets that I'm interested in having those properties. And I get phone calls, I get emails. And when I find somebody who understands what a great deal it is for them, then I go through the process. And a lot of times I don't even need to meet them. I have bought properties coast to coast when I lived in California at the time, coast to coast, using this process, just having people run it into an attorney to do paperwork, have them run it into the county recorder's office in order to record trust, doing this all by mail and by computer. And this was all, over 10 years ago, before we had the computer functionality that we have, before we had the remote society that we are in right now because of COVID. You can literally do everything online, and I was able to do it 10 years ago. You're definitely going to be able to do it now. That was my favorite strategy. That is what I am looking to do again, and I will continue to purchase any property on a regular, traditional, conventional purchase that makes sense. Right now, interest rates are still lower than they were in the 90s. Interest rates are still lower than they were in the mid 70s. Okay. Everybody's getting spooked right now, but people were still buying houses then and they still profited then. We can still buy houses now. We can still profit now. I believe Donald Trump's first multifamily property that he purchased, I think it was 1978, I'm going to say, and he purchased it. Interest rates were high. Look at Donald Trump. Yeah, he's filed bankruptcy a couple times, but if you have to file bankruptcy a couple times and still be a billionaire, is that worth it?
Just to handle that embarrassment.
Yes.
Oh,
Don't do anything that's going to get you into bankruptcy for sure. Don't do anything that's going to get you into foreclosure for sure. Don't take on somebody's project that is not a good project and end up in bankruptcy still or foreclosure still. The numbers still have to work. There may be an opportunity to take somebody's property, but you may be taking a dog. You still need to do the numbers. It still has to be by the numbers. It still has to work for you. Run every single cost factor that you have, run every single expense, run every single potential profit factor that you have from each one of those. And if you are profiting from it, if this is paying for itself, you're putting money in your pocket, then do the deal. If not, apologize to the person, say, I'm sorry. I would talk to the bank about trying to do a modification. Modifications were huge when we were doing this back in the 6s and 7s. They do still do modifications. You don't hear about them anymore. You probably will, but they do still do modifications. And if a person's in a situation like that, suggest that they call the bank and do a modification if you're not able to help them. The bank may or may not be open to that. It depends upon the bank situation and that particular property.
Yep. Hey, Kevin, great stuff, brother. Great stuff. So when we come back next week, or not next week, but when we come back for the Wednesday show, we're going to talk about how we sell these properties. And we just talked about these strategies today. Now on Wednesday, we'll be talking about how we sell these. So we look forward to having you with us then. Have a great week. Happy hunting. Great investing to you. Kev, as always, brother.
Good to see you. Enjoy the beach.
We'll do that.
I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
See you now.
Bye. Happy investing, everybody.